Last year I did some crosses with roses, and I did a whole bunch of the crosses, well, quite a few, and the only ones that took were the ones by Abraham Darby crossed onto Charles de Mills, and these are the seedlings that resulted. I planted them in my yard, probably June, maybe early July. I had them somewhere else in pots, and they were growing great, and when I went to go move them, they had actually rooted through the pots down in the ground, so they kind of went into shock, I guess, and they started stressing out. Sadly, there is some disease on almost all of them, like black spot, and there's some mildew and stuff. Only 13 of the 16 seedlings that germinated are alive. One of them succumbed to either a deer or rabbit or squirrel, where I had them before. This one, and I numbered all of them in order in which I took them out of the flat into the pot. So this is the 13th seedling. It's probably somewhere between a foot and a half tall. The older leaves are showing the disease. This is the newer stuff that isn't showing it. Something I find interesting is the older leaves are the leaflets, so the individual leaflets here, my thumb's touching, are quite a bit bigger than the newer stuff. Also, the newer stuff has 7, while the older leaves are 5 leaflets. Moving to this one, this rose. So going back to number 13, there are some thorns, prickles, whatever you want to call them, but they're not very prominent. This rose here, which, let's see if I can find the tag. Oh, there it is. So this tag is quite a bit smaller. This rose is only about a foot tall. This is number 14 in order of which I took out. It has quite a bit of black spot to it, as you can see here. Again, the older leaflets are bigger than the newer leaflets, but the newer leaflets have the black spot as well. The reason why I brought up the thorns is you can actually see that there's quite a bit more thorns on there. They're not like stand out, look at me thorns, but there are thorns there. Moving to seedling number 12, considerably bigger leaflets. This one is probably 2 feet tall, and there's only one cane growing on it, which is kind of weird. All the rest of them seem to have more canes coming out of the ground than just one. I guess we'll see how well it does and survives over the winter in the zone 5B, 5B, 6A zone. This rose here, seedling 11. It's taller than 12 if I were to stretch it out. So it's probably 2 to 2.5 feet taller. However, there is some, I don't know if that's damage from the cicadas that we had this summer or some other insect in a couple spots. This one here has quite a bit of mildew on it, along with black spot. The leaves go from the darker green to lighter green when they're new. So old, new. Looks like it's 3-caned. This one here, almost as tall, somewhere in the 2-foot range. Again, there's black spot, which, I mean, Abraham Darby gets black spot, so I'm not terribly surprised that it has black spot. Here's the new leaves on this rose, and this rose is number... hang on. This rose is number 10. Let's see what number this rose is. Now, and rose seedling number 10's got multiple canes coming out of it too. So this is number 8. Oh, see, there's one that's got quite a bit of black spot on it. Here's some much more prominent thorns on seedling number 8. Number 10's got quite a few prominent thorns as well. Number 11 has thorns, but they're not as prominent as 10 or 8. All 3 of these, well, starting with 12, I believe it was, 12, 11, 10, 8 are all kind of gangly growth. So this one, again, I buried the name tag, so I don't know what number, but probably 9. It's got black spot on it, and smaller leaves than the older leaves for the new growth. Like the rest of them, it has almost no thorns though. So this rose is the seedling number 6. It's got quite a bit of thorns. This is probably the thorniest one. It also has the most modern looking leaves of all of them. There is some black spot on them, especially the older the leaves are. And here you can tell with my fingers. I accidentally hit this with a weed eater yesterday, so it is looking a little rough right here. All of these roses are with their parentage of being Abraham Darby crossed with Charles DeMille's, or Charles DeMille's crossed with Abraham Darby, since we usually label it seed parent first. All of them I expect are once bloomers, so they aren't going to be blooming this fall. The earliest I expect them to bloom is next spring, and that's being generous. This rose seedling, hang on, let me see if I can get the tag out. Buried that by accident as well. Seedling number 5. This is probably the tallest one. It's 3 feet tall. It's lanky. You can see it. Here's the and it's kind of flopping over. It's got black spot as well, and there's some thorns. Actually, quite a bit of thorns. But like I said, it's Abraham Darby. It's got thorns. Abraham Darby's got in its parentage, so it's got thorns. So I'm not terribly surprised about that. Also, I'm not terribly surprised about the black spot. Now, before, like I mentioned earlier, I moved them from one spot to another while they're in pots and they kind of stressed. Before I moved them out of the ground, or moved them and unintentionally uprooted them, they didn't have any sign of disease. So maybe that's just a leg leak hangover from the abrupt removal, and maybe next spring when any that survived the winter will not have disease. I don't know. We'll see. That's the neat thing about growing rose seeds, is you don't know how they're going to respond, how they're going to be until they are. This is seedling number 4. It's probably 2.5 feet tall. I mean, some of their older leaves got bigger, but I'd say a leaflet size for this one is probably the smallest leaflet size, therefore it's the smallest leaf on it. I mean, not that they're small leaves per se anyway, but it's going to be interesting. It's got quite a bit of thorns though as well. I'm not going for like thornless though. I just want to see what happens. Here's another rose seedling. I might have buried this tag. I don't know where it is. Oh, here we go. But this is number 3. Yep. So this is rose seedling number 3. got small leaves as well. It's got some thorns. So 3 and 4 are probably tied for the smallest leaflet size and leaves. This makes that seedling number 2. It's got quite a bit of modern looking foliage leaves. It's probably 1.5 to 2 feet tall. It's got some black spots. Again, not terribly concerned about it right now. We'll see what it looks like next year. And rose seedling number 1. Oh, that's not a rose seedling. This is rose seedling number 1. It's 2.5 feet tall. Yeah, probably 2.5 feet tall. It's got some disease issues. It's got the more matte look leaves. It's grown practically straight up and down, while all the rest of them do lean over a little bit. So all of them have the Gallica type slender stems. Whoops, slender stems right there. This one's got more of the Gallica type of thorn than the other stuff, but not quite exactly. So I guess we'll see what they look like next, if they bloom next year. How closely to either Charles DeMille's or Abraham Darby or who knows what they look like. Thank you for watching.